And I will share my screen now. Yeah. Yeah. Hope everyone can see my screen. Yeah. So, good morning, everybody. So, I'm going to present my licentiate seminar on design methods and processes for Mldl models. So, first I'll be setting out the context, then we will be discussing about the research questions, and then the research methodology adopted, and then we will be talking about the findings of the licentiate seminar, and then a seminar summary, and finally the conclusion and the future work. So moving on to the introduction. Why machine learning and deep learning technologies are popular in companies? This is because one of the reasons is because companies that integrate machine learning and deep learning into their software intensive system, they always seek to gain an increasingly competitive advantage over companies that do not use this kind of ML and DL technologies. And with the introduction of cloud technologies, with the availability and access to high data, artificial intelligence is becoming increasingly popular in companies. As we know, for software development, there are lots of methods, processes, and techniques already available. But this is not the case when we take machine learning and deep learning model development. Here, companies always experience a lack of systematic and structured method support everything compared to the software engineering field. So why this study? When we looked into previous research, what we understood is that the transition from prototype to production-ready deployment of machine learning and deep learning models is challenging. And this is confirmed by a study by Gartner. It is like even if lots of AI initiatives are going on in different companies, only 47% of machine learning, deep learning projects are moving on to the, are still remaining in the prototype phase, and they never make it to the production phase. And one more thing what we noticed is like companies across the domain, regardless of the level of expertise, like whether they are experienced in or less experienced or non-experts in the field of data science, everybody struggle a lot to create high-performing models. So we studied two problems. One is how to tackle the challenge of moving from prototype to deployment, production quality deployment of machine learning and deep learning model. And second one is lack of data science expertise. So in order to tackle these two problems, we set our research objective and goal as follows. So as I already mentioned, when we take the case of software engineering, there are lots of systematic and structured design methods and processes to support. But this is not the case of machine learning and deep learning. So we are trying to develop some systematic and structured we already developed some systematic and structured design methods and processes to support the development, deployment, and evolution of machine learning and deep learning model. And the goal is to enable not only experienced ones, but also less experienced. And we know whenever people in company do some data science projects, maybe other job title people, they have to shoulder the responsibility. Maybe business analysts or software engineers or people in other job titles, they also need to transform their job title to data scientist. So to advance their understanding and to address and promote the deployment, deployment and evolution of machine learning and deep learning models. So in order to address our research objective and also the different problems we already discussed, we framed three different research questions. So first one is like, as I already mentioned, we are trying to come up with some systematic and structured design methods for developing, deploying, and evolving machine learning and deep learning model. So the first research question is, what are the different activities performed as well as the challenges practitioners experience while they develop machine learning models in their companies? And second one is, what are the best practices and different challenges encountered by them and different architectural choices for deploying MLDL models in companies, like they specifically focus on deploying and operationalizing machine learning and deep learning model. And the third one is, how MLOps practices can help large-scale embedded systems to achieve continuous delivery and evolution of machine learning, deep learning models. So the Endure project, it is done in the context of Software Center, where Software Center is a research collaboration between 17 companies and 5 universities. And out of the 17 companies, we consider 10 companies as the primary case companies where we actively collaborate for our research project. Others we consider as secondary case companies. And here you can see some of the case companies. They are from telecommunications, packaging, automotive, pumping, transportation solutions, a platform for developing, deploying Mldl models and all. So here we can see the Endure research process. In this particular figure, you can see as you all know, I have 6 publications. So 5 conference publication and 1 journal publication, which is yet to appear, which is already accepted. So for here you can see the different case companies involved in each paper, as well as the different research methodologies, as well as the techniques involved in each paper, and which paper corresponds to which particular research question. For instance, for paper 1, we did our case study at case company A, B, and C, and we used techniques like interviews, workshops, and meetings for data collection, and we analyzed the data. And this is regarding the research question 1, that is how to develop machine learning and deep learning models. Likewise, we did the same for other papers too. And here you can see the research question and what are the different research objectives they address, and what are the different research methods and techniques used, as well as the data collection techniques used in each of the paper, as well as number of companies and use cases involved in each of the paper to address each of the research questions. For instance, if we take the case of first research questions, like how to develop machine learning and deep learning models, what are the different activities performed and challenges experienced. In order to achieve that particular research objective, we did exploration of different phases, and we identified different challenges faced by practitioners. We also identified different iterations and triggers to optimize the design process, and the research method used is case study. And we collected the data using interviews and observation. So for the data collection technique, we use semi-structured interviews, observation from workshops and meetings. So as I already mentioned, 3 case companies are involved in this particular case. And in one of the companies, we learned 4 use cases. And in each of the other 2 companies, we learned 2 cases each. Likewise, we did the same for addressing research question 2 and research question 3. Then we are moving on to the findings. So in the findings, we are trying to come up with end-to-end process for developing, deploying, and evolving machine learning models. And in that particular findings, in that particular context itself, what we figured out is like in-depth studies on deployment and operationalization of machine learning and deep learning model, and how to ensure continuous delivery and evolution of models. So the first is development phases for MLDL models. So first, when we just asked data scientists in companies like, how do you develop machine learning and deep learning models? So everybody is not sure about a particular process that they can mention. Everybody has had some pieces of puzzle which they were not able to combine together to see a picture. So when you ask, they will be like, we do this, we do that, and that is what we did, and we did it from our experience and all. So what we did first is like, we tried to come up with a design process for developing machine learning and deep learning models. As you can see in the figure, there are like 7 different activities or phases which we need to follow in order to come up with well-functioning machine learning and deep learning model. So they are business case specification, data exploration, feature engineering, experimentation, development, deployment, and operational. And even though we will be able to achieve high-performing machine machine learning and deep learning models by following this design process. If you are introducing some iterations and triggers also inside this, it can even optimize the design process. And we also learned the challenges associated with each of the phases. And this particular study, we did a case study involving data scientists at case company A, B, and C to achieve the results. Next, it is AI-driven business development. So this is a extended study of design process. So here we give more focus to profit, like we give more focus to the business. So the whatever phases we figured out in the design process, the 7 phases, we just grouped them into 3 high-level activities, and they focused on business case, data, and experimentation. And in each of the activities, we can see 4 different phases. For instance, in business case experimentation, we give more importance to how business case is generated, how we do the qualitative selection of each generated business case, how to prioritize the how to do the selection and specification of prioritized business case, and how the business case validation is done. In that particular figure, we can also see with the dotted lines, it denotes the different iterations and triggers that can optimize the entire business development process, as well as we can see different roles involved, like for coming up with a well-functioning machine learning deep learning model, or like AI-driven business development. Some key roles involved are business owner, product owner, data practitioners, data scientists, domain experts, etc., etc. So as this is a continuation of the first study, the case study involves data scientists at case company A, B, C, and 3 new companies, D, E, and J also. And also we figured out when a particular business case will be terminated, those kind of information also. And the different challenges, what we figured out, what we identified from the first study, we just grouped them into 3 categories. It's like pre-deployment, deployment, and post-deployment. And then it is like once we have developed, we identified systematic and structured design method for developing MLDL models. Once we have a well-functioning model at our hand, then we need to decide whether we should deploy that particular machine learning deep learning model either at the cloud or at the edge, or we should go for a mix of cloud and edge architecture. So in our next study, we did a 6-month action research at case company C. And once we had the results, we did a validation interview at case company D, A, E, and F. So in that particular company, I spent 2 days per week for 6 months, and we dealt with development of a generic framework consisting of 5 architectural alternatives. So the first architectural alternative is more centralized approach, like everything will happen at the cloud and just inference at edge. And when you move on from centralized to decentralized architecture, in the final stage, it is like everything happens at the edge. So in the middle, you have mix of centralized and decentralized architecture. So the framework ranges from centralized architecture, where cloud retraining is given more priority, to a decentralized architecture, where the edge retraining is instead given priority. And we also identified the key challenges that experts face when they have to select an optimal architectural alternative among the centralized mix of centralized, decentralized, and decentralized architecture. And as a continuation to this study, when we did the study at this different companies, we figured out that there are some different factors that determine whether you need to go for cloud-based centralized approach or decentralized approach, or a mix of centralized and decentralized approach. So based on the case study, we figured out the 3 different factors, important factors that can decide the selection are device cost, global model performance, and privacy. Also, we identified some additional factors too. They are explainability, scalability, device architecture, etc. But these are the 3 important factors. And then it is like end-to-end deployment process. most companies, they struggle with this deployment process. So based on a systematic literature review and a gray literature review, that is multivocal literature review, we identified an end-to-end deployment process for integrating, deploying, and operationalizing different machine learning and deep learning models. And we identified 5 different phases in it. They are design, integration, deployment, operation, and evolution. And we also identified 2 different tasks under this. Then it is MLOps framework. Nowadays, we observe that companies are trying to extend DevOps principles to the machine learning models. So most of the companies, they aim for automation, reproducibility, everything of their ML models. So based on multi-vocal literature review, as well as a case study at 3 different companies, we identified an MLOps framework where the entire framework can be divided into 3 different pipelines. They are data pipeline, modeling pipeline, and release pipeline. And we have different activities involved in them. And in that particular figure, we can figure out that once you have data and code, we can version it and we can store it in data repository for future use or for training, retraining of the model. And the deployed version of the model can be stored in the model registry and everything, and you have data feedback loop and all. And also we figured out 4 different stages that companies go through when they are trying to get into the fully automated MLOps. So the identified stages are automated data collection, automated model deployment, semi-automated model monitoring, and fully automated model monitoring. And once we identified the different stages that companies go through when they become more and more mature, we place the 3 of the companies in that particular stage when case company A is placed in between the stage 1 and 2 because their data pipeline is not that quite immature, even though they have other pipelines as matured and and that is matured to fully automated MLOps. And some of the challenges we identified when when data scientists or practitioners try to develop, deploy, and evolve machine learning, deep learning models can be seen here. So if you take the case of development, it is low performance of the pre-trained models for transfer learning, and sometimes model fails to do generalization, general purpose platform to easily change algorithms and all. And if in case of data exploration, most of the companies, they face dataset copyrights. Because of that, sometimes they need to reject some business case itself, and they need to reserve that particular business case for future, all those kinds of things. And then domain expert shortage. Sometimes data scientists are expected to do the role of domain experts also, and business owners, they think like data scientists can act as domain experts in their particular project, but it is not. It can be a dream, or maybe they will take lots of time to adapt with that. And here is a summary. So here you can see the research questions, research method employed, case companies involved, and purpose that address these research questions and results. Then coming to key contributions and conclusion. So based on our research methods, based on employing different kinds of research methods, case study, action research, everything at different companies, and using different research techniques like interviews, observation, etc., we identified an end-to-end systematic and structured design method and process for developing, deploying, and evolving the models. So it's like an end-to-end process. So in order to contribute to that, we developed the design process for machine learning and deep learning models with iterations to optimize the design process. And we also identified a generic framework for deploying AI at the edge. Then we identified an architecture selection framework for AI system deployment by identifying key factors. And then it is the development of end-to-end deployment framework. And in order to ensure continuous delivery and evolution, we developed MLOps framework. And in order to in order to increase the value delivery, and we proposed AI-driven business development framework, and we also identified different key challenges that practitioners face when they developed, deployed, and evolving machine learning and deep learning models. And future work based on our work on how to deploy machine learning or deep learning models on the edge or cloud. We already did the study, so now we are trying to experiment it with 3 architectural alternatives. They are centralized architecture, federated architecture, and decentralized architecture, and we are trying to validate it against key factors: mass customization, scalability, and model performance. Once we identified all kinds of systematic, structured, and design methods, and also different challenges faced by practitioners, now we are trying to experiment now we are going to the next stage of our research process, like experimenting how practical it is, kind of. Yeah. And thank you. With this, I'm done with my presentation. Thank you all for listening. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Menu, for summarizing 2 years of research in about 25 minutes. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
And so the next step in the process is to invite our opponent, Maria Pasivara, to discuss with Menu based on the presentation and, of course, based on reading the thesis. And this is a discussion that typically takes around 50 minutes or so, but we are in good time. So Maria, please feel free and most welcome to the discussion.
Thank you. And thank you very much, Helena, for inviting me to be the opponent and read this very interesting work. So, and thank you, Minu, for doing this very, very, very interesting work. So I think that this topic is super interesting, and you have had really good companies to study. So you have really good data. And in your presentation, and of course in your book, I really like the different pictures that you have created, so that your main results are actually presented very well in those different figures and tables. So that is very nice.
Thank you.
And today I will concentrate quite a lot on methodological questions, because that's something that when we can trust or see how you have really performed the research, so then we can better trust your results and see how generalizable they are, for example, to other companies.
Yeah.
So my first
sure.
question is actually that you did quite a lot of qualitative research. So can you explain a little bit why you decided to choose qualitative research methods for this topic?
Yeah. Okay. As you already mentioned, I have adopted qualitative research for my studies. It is because software engineering, it is a multidisciplinary area where you need to concentrate both on social as well as technological boundaries. So what I think is like we need to learn things from the experience of the practitioners too, like how not only we need to focus on methods and tools that they use to develop different things, but we need to focus on in the context in which they are developing these particular things, like the cognitive background, everything on like how they are developing different things or deploying things and evolving things. So you will get an idea like what they are exactly doing rather than what they say they do. So in order to get an idea like voice of practitioners, so that as I already mentioned, my goal is to enable not only experienced data scientists, but also less experienced and experts also to do the same. So I think like if we are focusing more on the experienced data scientists, up some systematic structured design methods and process, we can add on to that, and then experts and like less experienced people and non-experts also can follow that, and they can also act like experts actually. So I'm concentrating on how they are doing it. That's why I have employed case study, so that I can actually learned phenomena, learn a particular phenomena for a long period of time, and I can just using semi-structured interview studies and all those, I can just get lots of idea like how they are actually doing those in the companies. And by using action research study, I got an opportunity to go to the company, and actually I spent 2 days there for 6 months, and I was involved in all their meetings, stand-up meetings, project meetings, everything. So whenever they make some changes or something, I'm also involved in that. And due to and observations also helped a lot. Like I can just sometimes participatory observation, I can just focus on what they are doing, and I can just take notes and all, and I can just analyze all those things, and I can just produce research results.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I have adopted qualitative research.
Yeah, thank you. Let's go to the
Hope I answered.
action research method a bit later on. So I have also questions about that.
Yeah.
But let's move to the first publication first. So you had in the
Yeah.
first publication that is called Developing MLDR Models, a Design Framework. So there you had both interviewed people, and then you had also some workshops. And there I was wondering one
Yes.
question, the choice of people that you interviewed. So you interviewed both data scientists about their work, but then you had quite a lot of other roles that you interviewed, like managers. So can you explain also that choice? So why did you want to interview also managers?
Yeah. If we take the case of first study itself, it starts from business case specification, then data exploration, everything. So for end-to-end process of machine learning, deep learning models, all roles are involved, like managers, data scientists, domain experts, like software engineers, people. And one more thing is like when companies has to do data science project, due to inadequate number of data scientists, people in other roles are also involved in this particular project. And if you want a perspective, overall perspective, it is already always good to have all these people like with different experiences. And how we figured out different people, like the how we chose different experts for interview. It's like when we in software center, we have kickoff meetings as well as reporting workshops. So in kickoff meetings itself, we will focus on some research focus, and we will be studying different challenges, and we will be frequently coordinating with companies. So, and one more thing is like whenever we meet them during company workshops and cruise company workshops, the first study emerges when we asked them, how do you develop all these things? How do you develop machine learning, deep learning model? As I mentioned, their answer was like, oh, we did this, we did that, and they do not have a structured methodology, something. So then we figured out which all companies are interested in participating this particular study. Then we sent out a mail to the main person in contact, and we asked him will you be available for an interview? And we just asked him to provide us with the names of people whom he think like will be appropriate for this study. And then it is like we will be sending out invitations to them, and we mention our objectives and everything, and we provide some we developed some interview guides, and we do the iterations a lot on the interview studies. Like first I'll be creating the interview guides, then I'll be passing it on to my supervisors, and they will do some iterations. And likewise we did. And mostly most of our interview studies, they are semi-structured and open-ended questions, kind of, so they can we make sure that we get what expected, and we make sure we get unexpected things also. Kind of, that is the entire procedure of interview study. And once you have the design process in place, we will be validating the results with the different companies. And once you have a paper to publish, we will be sending it out to the steering committee who will be approving it. So we make sure that most of the results are up to date and it is correct. Yeah.
Yes, very good. Okay, then one more question about this. So I was reading through all the nice quotations from this paper, but I noticed that almost all of them were from company A, so basically from one company only. So then I was wondering these phases that you have created. So is this coming also from that one company, or did the other two companies have exactly the same phases? So what is this result based on?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So if you look into my studies, you can see that most of the studies case company A is involved. And plus for the first study case company A is involved, B is involved, and C is involved. But the thing is, like in case company A, we learned 4 different domain areas. So it is like we can consider them as 4 different use cases. So we will be getting lots of information from that. And the design methods, it's like in case company A deals with telecommunications and case company B deals with automobile. So the process they follows are like little different. And case company C is a packaging company, so they are from different domains. So if each and every company, they contributed to the results. It's not actually the case company A, but at case company A we learned 4 different use cases, and at case company B and C we learned 2 other different use cases. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Then I would like to move to next study, actually to the study 3, where you did this action research, because I think that was interesting, that you had been there 6 months and 2 days per week. So can you tell a little bit more? What were you doing there when you said that it's action research, but you don't tell so much what was happening there?
Yeah. Yes, yeah. So in the very first step, we contacted the company and we had different use cases, and we all finally ended up with the one use case which will be benefit for me also and for the company. So we go for the defect detection. That is the use cases, and once we finalize the use cases that I'm going to work, then we had an agreement with the company, and then I went to that company 6 months, like 2 days per week. And in that particular time, I get an opportunity. In the initial phase, I got opportunity to learn more about the company, different use cases they are actually working on, and different challenges they are facing, and what are the different workflows and processes they are following all this information. So first I got an overview of the company. Then during this phase, I got an opportunity to do semi-structured interview studies with them. And when I entered into that particular company, they already have they already have some approach to do the centralized training, retraining of models at cloud. But they were looking forward to do the training, retraining of models at edge, as well as a mix of cloud and edge opportunity. So I was involved in the project meetings with the people of various experiences and roles in the company. I got opportunity to do semi-structured interview studies, and I was involved in almost all meetings. So with the help of interviews, semi-structured interviews, meetings, writing diaries, and workshops, like with maybe sometimes the workshop it will be having some 2 or 3 people. Sometimes it will be like more number of people kind of. So I was involved in each and everything. And finally, I have come up with 5 different architectural alternatives, starting with centralized approach, then moving on to
Yeah. So you mentioned here that you were following this action research cycle. So you were like diagnosing and then planning actions and then taking actions and evaluating. So can you tell concretely something that what did you do according to that cycle?
Yeah. So first it is diagnosing. So we had lots of use cases, and we come to an agreement to take one of the use cases. So that is diagnosing phase. Then it is the action planning. Then we had lots of opportunity, like lots of alternatives, like how we should do the training, retraining of models at cloud and edge and all. We come up with lots of architectures, and with once I had some architecture, I'll be presenting it to that company. So there were like lots of architectures which went for their validation and all. And then it is like action taking. Then after that, lots of verification, we finalized 5 different architecture alternative. Then we evaluated it with the company people. Like they had lots of requirements in place, like lots of specifications in space, like they need training, retraining at this place. They want to send out this much data to the global model. They need monitoring in place, so much specification, and we figured out whether everything is met and all. And we last stage we specified the learnings also. Yeah.
So
yeah. And
you created so you created like several architectural alternatives. So was it you creating them or the company, or how did you come up with those different alternatives?
Yeah. So it is like we know that they need training, retraining at cloud, edge, all those kind of mixes. And with the help of semi-structured interview studies, with the help of observations, meetings, workshops, and all, I created the entire architectural alternatives. And I presented it to them. And with their feedback, I made changes and again presented it to them and finally validated. Yeah.
Okay. So did they take into use any of those, or was this just like a set of alternatives, or did they decide that, okay, we will use that one?
Yeah, it's like actually they were looking for that particular kind of architectural studies, and they actually asked me to send out the presentations to them. So they will be creating it. And as I mentioned in my future work also, we are also trying to experiment some of the architectural alternatives on our side also. Yeah.
Okay. So and then in the next study, you had well, the next study was also about these architectural alternatives. So you had 5 different alternatives. So which one would you recommend if some company would come to you that, okay, we would like to do this? So which one of these would you recommend to us?
Yeah, from the perspective of company, most of the companies, they want to be safe and they want to adopt centralized approach. Like just do the training, retraining of models at the cloud, and just they have to do the inference at the edge. But actually they are all dreaming about a day where they can be reached at the decentralized approach, so that everything will be happening at the edge. There is no need for the cloud. But companies are not yet that much confident, and most of the companies are not yet reached at that position, but they are actually looking forward to reach that particular approach. And based on the key factors, most of it's like we have 5 different architectural alternatives, and whenever in order to fit a particular business case in a company, practitioners always have some confusion like which architecture they should face. So we identified 3 different key factors. So most of the companies are at the first stage now, and they are trying to move on to the mixed stage, as well as finally everybody want to be at the decentralized stage actually. But some people are scared like how it will be when you have no trust with the cloud and you have everything at the decentralized approach. Some are like, oh, it can be costly and we don't have the device architecture for that at place. Maybe once we have that, we can move on to that stage safely, kind of. Yeah.
Okay, so that they would start with a safer state and then move to another model later on.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Then if you look at the next study 4, so no, not study 5. So there you have done the multivocal literature review and systematic literature review. So I have some questions about that, or especially about the multivocal literature review. So what kind of articles did you choose for that? Because you said that you didn't take blog posts, but you took articles from companies. So can you explain a little bit how you selected and why and what kind of articles?
Yeah, actually first when I was doing the systematic literature review and grey literature review, I struggled a little like how to figure out the important articles that fits for my study and all. Then I read about the Kitchenham guidelines and everything for SLR and all. And in order to get the state of the art, I looked into the systematic literature review and I explored 5 different famous libraries. And when it comes to the case of GLR, since since we need to know not only the state of practice but also the voice of practitioners, like how they do those things in state of practice, I looked into GLR actually, and I just looked into studies that are written in English and all. And why I chose like companies, right? They are not, sometimes companies, they are not interested in publishing articles. Maybe due to their busy lives, they won't get much time and all. So what I understood is like they will, whatever they are doing at their companies, they will be publishing it as Grey Literature Review. And I have filtered .com sites actually. So I thought the results or whatever findings they say there, it will be like valid ones actually. So I didn't look for the blog post and all because there is not that much validity for the results and all. So I just looked into the .com sites of the companies and looked into famous companies like Microsoft, Google, and all those kind of companies. Yeah.
So you started by selecting some famous companies.
No, it's like I have filtered out with the .com, and I have deleted all duplicated entries. I have set some inclusion exclusion criteria and all, and I have whatever fits into that particular company, I have chosen it. But companies like Microsoft, Google, Deloitte, all were part of that particular selected studies actually. Yeah, so I haven't looked into company's name and filtered it. I used .com and I filtered, but they were part of that actually. Since lots of studies for machine learning and deep learning are going on in these companies, they published a lot of articles. Yeah.
But how can you be sure that you haven't missed something important? Because it might be some not so famous company that has published something about that topic.
Yeah. You're right. It's like as I told in .com, whatever company is told, even if it is a famous or non-famous company, if it comes in .com and if it is in PDF format, I have looked into that and the results were added, and they are mentioned in the reference section of the paper also.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you feel that you are sure that everything important is there.
But definitely Grey Literature and systematic literature review, definitely there are chances like we'll be missing one or two articles or something. I don't think like I'm so perfect in that particular, but whatever I can retrieve from the based on my inclusion and exclusion criteria, I have used it for my findings. Definitely I would have missed it, but I don't think like Grey Literature, systematic literature review are not that easy to find here.
Yeah, that's always challenging to be sure that you have included everything.
Yes.
Yeah. You said that you included first 16 or found 16 and then chose only 6. So how do you feel about that? Is that
some were some were duplicate entries, some were not in PDF. So so I just excluded some of the retrieved studies. Like I have already I retrieved from Google's called Google Explore the retrieved selected ones. Then I just applied the inclusion exclusion criteria and I read through the entire text and I just filtered out the necessary ones that fits to our particular keywords.
Can you mention some of those inclusion criteria? What would you include?
Some it is like articles that has information about deployment, integration, evolution, all those of this particular machine learning and deep learning models, like different process they go through while they are deploying, what are their different experiences and practices when they follow all this information. Yeah.
Okay, so then you had the last article was about the ML ops. So where did you get, first of all, the idea that you would study this topic, ML ops?
Yes. And one situation is like when you had company workshops and cross-company workshops, company practitioners, they used to mention their interest towards in adopting this MLOps and all. Then I have heard it also from my supervisors too, like this is a booming research keyword kind of, which is going to be implemented in all companies. And we figured out like Ericsson, one of the uh, some of the companies are interested in doing this particular study, and because most of the companies they are trying to automate, they are trying to reproduce the end results so that they can just extend their DevOps principle to the machine learning models. So that, and one more thing is like they are looking forward to achieve some versioning and all those information. So we figured out like, and whenever I also read some of the articles also, like before doing this study, we as you can see, we did some SLR and GLR also this on top of this. So we got an idea like how interesting it is, how immature the particular term is, and how companies are interested in adopting that particular term in the companies. Yeah.
Okay, then you created this maturity model for MLOps,
Yes.
and it's based on the literature, right? Because you had
Yes.
also case studies. So is the model based only on the literature and not on the case studies?
Yeah, first we had the MLOps framework we did.
Yeah.
Then based on literature, we figured out like companies are going through these particular stages during the MLOps framework. So we did a maturity model, and then we had a case study at 3 different companies, and we tried to map where they are in that particular maturity model. So some companies, they are at a quite immature stage. Some they have already started doing this, and some they have a very good matured data pipeline and serving pipeline kind of. So we place them on this particular stages, and almost in all our studies, in based on the case study, also we used insights from our longitudinal case study and experiences with the case companies from the past 2 years.
So
Yeah.
it's based in a way also on your experience with the case studies, so not only on the literature.
The maturity model is based on the literature review.
Okay. Yeah.
And like the 3 case companies, we placed it based on the semi-structured interviews, workshops, everything on different companies. Yeah.
Yeah. So then when you look at the maturity model and those different steps, and like you said that the companies that you studied are quite on the early phases only. So I was wondering that when you did that based on the literature review, so did you find any companies that were on the highest levels?
No, everybody is just implementing. Everybody wanted to be at the fully automated MLOps stage, but everybody is just in the very first stages actually. And the problem is like most of the companies, they have some pieces in place, but not every pieces. So they are trying to place each and every pieces actually. So it can be like for some companies, they have for data pipeline, they have some pieces in place already, but they are still to achieve automation, everything for some other pieces.
Yeah.
So we cannot say that in all companies like fully matured. Yeah.
Yeah. So like the 2 high steps are maybe something where none of the companies is yet.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, but companies are taking lots of initiatives. Yeah.
Yeah. So they are just hoping to be there someday.
And MLOps, the term MLOps becomes relevant in 2015 with the paper Hidden Technical Depths of Machine Learning and Deep Learning. So it is like MLOps is in its very early mature phase actually. Yeah. And recently there are like lots of studies going on. Yeah. So maybe one day in future.
Yeah.
We can expect that.
Yeah, very good. Okay, then you mentioned in several places that these data scientists and domain experts or software engineers, so they don't collaborate enough. So do you have any ideas based on this study and the collaboration with the companies that how should that kind of collaboration be organized better in companies?
Yeah. So in one of the most of the time, sometimes the people who develop the models, they know about developing models itself. They don't have much idea about how to deploy it and how to evolve it. So with the help of machine learning MLOps, if there can be a collaboration between data scientists as well as operational professionals also. So in one of the company, I have attended their stand-up meetings. So what I figured out is like all people in the particular team, they will be joining for 15-minute stand-ups every day, and they will be they are discussing about what they did yesterday, what changes they are going to do today, and what are the different implications. So I think in that particular company, almost everyone has idea about what is actually going on. And in companies, there can be a situation like maybe in between some work, data scientists, they will be going to some other company or they will be taking up some other project and all. So at that particular stage, maybe the entire project will experience some slow transitioning. So once everybody is in the same page, it will be easy for them. So with the help of Agile, with the help of stand-up meetings, as well as some companies, they will be asking the practitioners to attend some very good conferences regarding their project field and all those kind of things. And everybody. And when I did the action research also, the person, the architect, the software architect, right, he was also involved in all the meetings together with the data scientists and everybody. And in that particular company, I was asked also to educate, like, since he's not that much aware of machine learning and deep learning models, I actually told him these things are happening. He's well strong in the deployment and evolution phase, but he's not that confident with the developing models. So I basically I explained each and every phase, is like how these things are happening. So in that phase, most of the practitioners, even if they are software developers or data scientists or software architects, the company tries to educate them.
Yeah.
And so whenever the companies hire them,
yeah, so that they would learn more about each other's jobs. But when you mentioned these daily stand-ups, so were like data scientists there, or like what kind of teams did they have? Did they have teams where there are only data scientists, or did they have like mixed teams with domain experts?
Mixed teams. Sometimes the main person, he will be having idea about the domain also, and it's like managers, data scientists, and people who are taking part of the deployment. Everybody attends that particular meeting, so it happens every day. So everybody gets a update on what is happening and how it's happening, what are the different challenges they are facing, and all those kind of information. Yeah, so everyone is at the same page.
So what kind of implications that could have to training young students who are studying software engineering or studying data science?
Yeah. As I already mentioned, most of the companies, they experienced inadequate availability of data scientists. So people in other role like business analyst or software developer, or it's like a data scientist. It should be like a polymath data scientist who should be able to act as a domain expert, or maybe validate business cases, deploy models, evolve models, and everything. And in one of the company, they told like whenever they recruit a particular data scientist, they always put a high bar. So most otherwise, so that they can reduce time in teaching those particular data scientists. They expect them to be like very experienced people who can start working from day one on all these things. And one more thing, what we noticed is like domain experts. There sometimes when it comes to the case of experienced data scientists, they sometimes struggle to use the tools and methods for their tailored options. But when we look into local companies or small companies, they have domain experts in hand, but they have no much idea about how to use the tools and experts. So, and in one of the company, they told like they need to chase domain experts. So it will actually lower the pace of their projects. Maybe these can be a reason why most of the projects are still in prototype phase and not moving on to the deployment stage actually. Yeah.
The lack of collaboration.
Yes, lack of collaboration and maybe shortage of data scientists, domain experts, and all. Sometimes the data scientists, the company expect the business owners, right? Whenever business owners talk to these data scientists or people in companies, they expect that the data scientists, they know everything about their business. So actually, from one of the data scientists during semi-structured interview, he mentioned like they always thought like we know everything about their business, but it is really hard for us to understand. Sometimes whenever they ask for some particular metric to be improved, and or maybe they will mention the wrong metric. Once you have developed the entire Mldl models, and when you ask them to validate, maybe they will be like, oh, we didn't want this particular metric, we need another metric, we forgot to mention it in the very first stage. And also there are like some lack of collaboration between the business owners with the other roles and vice versa.
Yeah, I like those figures where you had those teams who should be collaborating together. So I think that probably could help companies to understand that collaboration is really important. But then my question to you is that what do you see as your main contribution to these companies? Like what is your most important result that would be useful to these companies? Your own opinion regarding your results.
Yes, yeah. I think the first one is very important. Because when we started the research, most of the data scientists, they do not have much clue about what should be the exact processes they should follow when they are trying to develop a well-functioning model. And at one of the reporting workshop, I had presented a poster presentation regarding this particular paper. And one of the practitioners in one of the company, he just asked me what it is, and I just explained him. Once I explained him, then he told like, oh, I was not aware about. I didn't have much experience, no experience at all in machine learning and deep learning. But this one is so interesting, and I got an idea. Like being a non-expert, I got an idea like how all these things will be working. So I think that particular work, it can just promote non-experts also, because non-experts, they are never ever worried about the end results and all. Sometimes they will deploy invalid models, being unaware about the accuracy or what metric they should focus on and all. So that was like a very good experience. And then most of the companies were interested in my end-to-end deployment process. As we already mentioned by the Gartner study, only 47%, most of 47% of the project are still in prototype. So companies, they struggle a lot with how to deploy, because these models, they need to be deployed into the entire system they have. Like the entire system with the software and electronics they have, we just need to integrate this machine learning and deep learning models. So they always have a lack of knowledge on how to deploy, operationalize, and evolve this machine learning and deep learning model. So that particular paper was very interesting for the company practitioners actually. Yeah. Those
Sounds
two
good.
I consider as the main contribution. Yeah.
Good. So then if we think about the generalization of your results, so your case companies were from some particular areas, and they were all from Sweden. So if some company here in Finland from a different area would like to take into use your results, so what would be your answer? That would these results be generalizable to some other companies, to some other countries, and if yes, so which ones and why?
Yeah, actually, out of the 17 companies, some of the companies are outside Sweden. And it is like we cannot fully visualize the entire like every company, they are working on different domains. and they have different use cases. And according to my opinion, we cannot fully visualize the entire scenario at different company exactly, but definitely we can see parts of that in different companies. So and if we take the case of first study and all design methods and process, those results, I think whichever companies they are integrating machine learning and deep learning models into their system, it can be generalized to other companies too. But according to my opinion, we cannot see the entire scenario at every company, but we can see parts of it at different companies actually. Yeah, and most of the results, and like if some companies they want to deploy machine learning, deep learning models at cloud or edge, they can have an overall idea like how it should be done. But there can be some changes based on their scenario, but overall it can be generalized to a great extent, all studies. Yeah. And I think those companies that are in initial phase of all this, right? Like for them, this will be like very helpful. Yeah.
But is there some of these results that you feel that you would need to study still in more companies to get like more confidence that this is actually like you have said?
Yeah.
So which one could be something like that?
Then it will be maybe MLOps, since it is a booming keyword, and since companies are at their initial phases, and as I already told, the term became relevant in 2015, just 6 years ago, and most of the companies they are trying to reach the automation so that they, like if you press some switch, everything happens. You don't need to do everything again and again, like validation, automation, reproducibility, and all. I think that particular study, if we get an opportunity to do that in different companies, will get more insights actually. And there is not lot of papers in that particular domain also.
Yeah, and especially if you can do that, especially if you can do that a little bit later when companies are maybe on the next steps in your model.
Yes, yeah.
So did you find anything surprising when you did this study? I mean, that because this is very new area, and in the beginning you probably couldn't expect all that you find. So what do you feel that was most surprising to you?
When I consider the overall studies?
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe one thing can be like the first study, like almost all that all practitioners in company, they are doing each and every step to develop, deploy, and evolving. But they never figured out, like whenever we go and ask each company, everybody is like, we do this, we do that, and everything. But actually, unknowingly, they are doing the things. But they do not have a systematic approach for doing, or like design process for doing this. So it was like a little surprising fact for me. And when we just keep all the puzzles together, and when we told them like this is something we figured out, that yeah, we also do this, we also do this kind of. But when we ask them at the very initial stage, everybody is like, we just get the data, we did this, we just did this kind of. But in that particular paper, we collaborated all the findings from 3 companies, like how companies they think about each and every phases, how they proceed through each and every phases. And one can be like experimentation. Before experimenting with any particular Mldl models, like researchers, they are also doing state of the art. And based on their business case, sometimes if they have time, they will implement something that is already in the published papers. And if they are they will experiment with new things. And if don't have time, maybe they will take something already implemented kind of. So it is like state of the art, looking into state of the art. They are all like common in every companies, but they do not always think like, okay, we have a systematic process like this, you can do this kind of. It's like a bit mixed up actually. So it was just surprising for me in the beginning.
Yeah, that they are not at good stage as you would think, that they don't know exactly what they should be doing. But then your research can certainly help them to realize what could be those steps.
Yeah, like it helped the less experienced people and non-experts also to work and act like experienced data scientists and something, so that we can shorten the transition from prototype to production quality models. yeah, to some great extent, I guess.
Okay, good. So is there anything that now when you look back to your research process, is there anything that you would do differently now if you could do this all again? Or would you do the studies exactly the same way?
Let me think for a second.
Sure.
Yeah. Maybe it is like in some of the case studies, I think maybe if we add more practitioners or more case companies, we will be getting more and more insights. Now, also some of my case companies, it involved 7 to 8 case companies and all. But still, I think if we increase the number of practitioners in some of the case study, maybe we will get more and more insights. Everyone will be having lots of things to contribute, right? And maybe I will be more interested in doing some studies on deployment and evolution, because when it comes to collecting data and developing models, almost everybody is aware about those processes. But when it comes to doing the deployment and evolution, and some companies, they are not at that particular stage. Actually, they are stuck at the very first stages. And during one of my study, one of the company practitioners, they told like, we never care for deployment. Then I just asked why. They told like, we haven't reached that phase. Then why should we bother about that particular thing? So maybe once every so some more information or some more studies concentrating in specifics with the deployment and operationalization will be a great contribution from me, I guess, in the future. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, yeah. Yes.
Just go ahead if you had something else to say.
Yeah, that's now in that particular deployment and evolution, I have already did the SLR and GLR studies. So I think if maybe in future, if I get some opportunities at companies also like specifying more on how the deployment and evolution is done, it will be great. And also we actually started a study on how quality attributes can be maintained without affecting the quality attributes of the NDL system, where we are integrating the machine learning and deep learning models. Machine learning, deep learning models, they will be having some quality attributes, and the system to which we are trying to integrate will be also having some quality attributes. So how we can actually integrate these models into that particular system without affecting the quality attributes. And we started that particular study in one of the company actually, but we were not able to get lots of input. So maybe in future, I'm also interested in extending that particular study to more case companies to figure out how it can be done. Yeah, I think most of the companies are not yet fully interested in safeguarding the quality attributes as of now. Maybe they are interested in developing, deploying, and evolving models. And if I'm getting a chance, maybe I can extend it to other case companies and I can get more insights. Yeah.
Sounds good. How about other researchers? If for example, if I would have a student who would be interested in studying this topic, so what would you suggest? What would be the topic that you would say that, okay, this area needs more studies?
Yeah, actually in our software center, we have some 5 to 6 researchers, and everybody is doing different portions. Actually, one people will be looking into data validation, somebody will be looking into federated learning, somebody will be looking into semi-supervised labeling problems and all those things. So each and everything is very, very important in this particular term, and maybe federated learning, everything. One of my PhD colleague is doing some research on federated learning. So some booming topics will be very good, I guess. Maybe like federated learning. And actually, I also did some study on transfer learning during that action research. Maybe if somebody is doing that also will be very good advantage. And something that will benefit both companies as well as the researcher will be my prime recommendation. Yeah.
Yes, that sounds good. The benefit to the companies is of course important. That's the main reason why we are doing this kind of research.
Yeah, and since I am part of software center, always we make a agreement between this company as well as the researcher, and we always choose topics that is interesting to them, or maybe the areas where they face a lot of challenges. We try to mitigate them with by involving in all those kinds of case study, action research, and everything. Yes, yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much for your answers. I think that I have finished here, so I try to be on time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, both of you. So thank you, Maria, for really digging deep into the different studies and giving Meni the opportunity to expand on her research as well as detail the presentation she gave as the first thing in the seminar. So thank you a lot, Maria. And thank you, Menu. And with that, we are moving on. If Maria feels that she is happy and done with her questions.
Yes.
Yes, then we open up for the audience to question Menu. And as I informed everyone in the beginning of the seminar, if you're in the audience and listening into this seminar, you are more than welcome to email me any question that you might have for Minu. And I think that we right now will see my email address on the screen. Thank you very much. So if you have questions to Minu, just send me an email. And I got one already from one person who was in your presentation and in the seminar. It is a question from Ivica Krankovic.
Okay.
He starts by thanking you for a very nice event. And then the question is, in your communication with the companies, did you observe that they built up radically new business goals? Or was it mostly about the same or similar business goals, and they deployed machine learning for those very same business goals, or did they deploy them to achieve new or innovative business goals that they didn't have?
Yeah.
Or rather, you could think about the questions, did they use machine learning primarily for the technical solutions, to improve the technical solutions, or did they even help them address new business goals?
Okay, thank you, Vicha, for the question. So when I did the study at one of the case company, what I figured out is like they generated business cases through different methods. So one is like they have an innovation team who will be developing some of the business cases, and once they once the data practitioners, they develop some business cases, they forward it to the innovation management of the company, and they approve it or they validate it when they figured out like it is something that can be a valuable business case. Sometimes what happens is like whenever they figured out like, okay, this particular business case can be like interesting for particular company or like for their particular client or something, they actually present it to them. One of the use cases they present, it is like detection of missed items in passenger vehicles. So they presented it to the company and they were really interested. And sometimes they always, most of the time, sometimes they all work on already existing use cases. Sometimes they build on new use cases and they propose new use cases. And as you can see in one of my studies, like they propose business cases, they just select and prioritize if it is a valid one after qualitative selection and all those. But sometimes there are chances like whenever they propose some business cases, sometimes they get rejected. Maybe because first reason can be like they have a very good business case, but they were not able to find enough data set for that particular business case. So it's like they have to wait unless and until they get the data set for that particular business case. Or sometimes it is because sometimes they will develop the business case, and when they send it out to the business owners to validate, maybe the business owners, they are not able to find any value for that. Or maybe the process of collecting data, everything is expensive, and they just reject the business case. But it is like companies, they work on existing use cases as well as they propose new use cases. The particular company where I studied, they proposed lots of new business cases to the innovation management, and once they approve it, they started working, experimenting on it a little bit, and they forward it to the business owners or clients, someone whom they think can find some value in that particular business case and all. Yeah, hope I answered the question.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And we have another question being sent in. The question is from Yuchu Liu. She is curious to know or hear your thoughts about what are the potential weaknesses of MLOps, and how are these weaknesses hindering the scaled implementation of MLOps in companies?
Thank you for the question. One potential weakness is as I already mentioned, every company, they want to implement data pipeline, like a data pipeline, modeling pipeline, and serving pipeline. But the companies, they do not have much collaboration between the practitioners. As I told, maybe we want to unify the practices of machine learning and operational staff, but sometimes there can be miscommunication or lack of collaboration between them. That can be a hindrance. And one thing is as I already mentioned, when it comes to the case of data pipeline, most of the companies, they have most of the activities in place, but not everything is implemented. Sometimes they need to version everything, like data, model, the deployed model, everything, and they need to store information, everything, but they are not fully implemented in the companies, which also stops them from migrating into the fully automated MLOps stage actually. And some companies, they are maybe one thing can be in some companies data pipeline is quite matured, maybe other tools are not quite matured. Maybe in some companies data pipeline, some part of data pipeline is matured, some is not, so they cannot fully get the advantage of the entire information. And also once we version the data, code, deployed version, everything, we can use them for training or retraining for the later purpose and all, but the storing of data repository, storing these things to data repository, code repository, everything is not that implemented in company, so it will hinder the companies from achieving versioning or fully automation or reproducibility of results and all. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
And we are doing good on the questions, because just as you finished, a third question came in from the Netherlands, actually. Okay. So we have a question here from Rima Dusopova. She asks you to reflect a little bit. So in the case companies, there is one approach where the Mldl projects were initiated by management, top down. And you also see they could be proposed from engineers, so more of the bottom-up approach. Yes. So the question is, which approach do you find most effective for ML product development, the top-down or the bottom-up?
Okay. Even if some of the Mldl projects are proposed from bottom-up approach, they need to be approved by the top management, the innovation committee in the company, maybe the business owners and everything. And in most of the companies, the bottom-up approach is also effective. They give full freedom to the practitioners in their company to come up with different use cases. Sometimes it is like the top-down approach. It is like you will have a business case already in place. And sometimes the business owners, they will be like, okay, we have a business case in place and we have this kind of data in place, and we need to find out these things or something, some use cases. We need to detect some defects, or we need to find some garbled speech frames or something like that. So it is like both things happens in companies actually. Sometimes business owners, they provide everything, like the business use case, the data set needed for that, everything. Sometimes the business owners, they will provide the business case itself, and the company, they has to find out some ways to collect the data that is compatible for the models. Or otherwise, bottom-up approach is also possible, like the people in the company, they propose with new ideas, because the ultimate aim is to achieve the client to have value business delivery or customer delivery, and to increase the business. So they always welcome new proposals also, but that has to be approved by the innovation committee or some management level or some client level, everything, and they need to figure out whether they have enough data set. And whenever some business case is proposed by the top-down approach, the data scientists or the practitioners, they always took some one or two simple models, and they figured out whether it is working fine and all, with a very limited set of data set, to make sure that whether it makes some sense and all. So both approaches actually happens. So according to my opinion, I think even if it is a bottom-up approach, even if it is proposed by people at the low level, it has to be approved by the people at the higher level. So it's like both happens at the companies actually. And most of the time, whenever it is top-down approach, there are high possibility that that particular business case will be validated by the business owners, because they are providing the business case, they are providing the data set, and we need to figure out whether it is good or not. But when it comes to the case of bottom-up approach, then there is some procedures like approval and all those things. But so maybe that business case can get rejected, or that should be like super interesting to the management level as well as to the client companies too.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
And I would want to encourage the audience to keep sending questions. If there is anyone else curious to learn more about Menu's research, I do not have an additional question in my inbox yet, but I will give it a few seconds to see if we have more questions coming in. I can say that 2 of the 3 questions were from practitioners, company people, and that is we are really happy to see that. But anyone out there listening in, you are most welcome to ask a question. What will happen after the questions is that we will take a bit of a break from here to make our ways to the grading committee meeting, or rather the discussion of your results. And then after that, the results will be announced. But that is the second part of this seminar. And before that, I would want to see and just make sure if there are any additional questions to Menu.
Maybe Helena?
As this is your one great opportunity. Yes, Jan.
Maybe I can pose a question.
Of course.
Yeah, thank you, Menu, for a very nice presentation. Interesting. I am a bit curious on how you view the learning part of the machine learning, so to say, when that can occur in your process description. And I'm particularly curious about how we view it if it's in a situation where the learning occurs close to the uses of the software, because you're talking about embedded and distributed software. And for instance, if you more or less send out, can think of a consumer product, a lawn maker doing your lawn at home, and you train it at home to stay at your lawn and not going to the neighbor's grass and cut it. And you train your product as a user. I guess it could also be, if you have in the automotive industry, that you have some cases where you partly want to, as a user of a self-driving vehicle, you want to train it to go your comfort zone when it comes to bumpy roads or something. In your model, would that training be in the operational phase, or is that the part of new deployment, or how do you view that when it comes to more continuous training and a situation where the, so to say, the user trains and take responsibility partly of the training him or herself?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. I did a case study at one of the case companies where they were where the use case is self-driving vehicles. I can just take that example. And what I figured out is, like, compared to other companies, verification and validation happens a lot in this particular automobile companies, because when it comes to the case of safety critical applications, they actually train a lot compared to other companies. Compared to other companies, they need a lot of training samples and all, because they have no idea like what can happen. In that particular case company, how they collect the data for training is like, either they will fit a camera to the car and they will be driving it for long hours, and they will be capturing all kind of with sensors and all, they will be capturing all kind of incidents and all. So they will get enough real-time applications, like real-time data set. But there can be still some data points which will be occurring very rare. So sometimes they actually try to prototype it from their side. It's like maybe a pedestrian crossing the road, everything can be like a frequent activity or something, but some activity that can happen once in a year or maybe in 10 years or something, they just simulate it manually. And they collect that particular data also. And compared to other companies, they do a lot of verification and validation. So it's like, if you take the case of use cases at other companies, the training, it will be, the time taken for training will be very, very less compared to this automotive vehicles and all. And once they train it, they will be placing their vehicles in the roads and all. And whenever they get new models, they can employ any kind of strategy. Maybe if want, they can add them to the already existing data set and they can retrain it again, or maybe they can just feed the vehicle with the unseen data and they can actually train it actually. So verification and validation compared to other companies, automotive vehicles are taking a lot of time, and it takes a lot of years for them to train, since it involves some safety critical issues also, and they need to follow some safety standards also when they develop such applications. Hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Good. He seems happy. Thank you, Jan. And then we have a question coming in on email, and the question is from YouTube, Liu. And the question is, can you see, is there a correlation in between company types, so for example, embedded systems companies or software as a service companies, etc., to their design methods in AI ML products?
Yep. Most of the companies that are working in the embedded system domain, even if their domains are different, they always try to integrate their machine learning models into the already existing systems and all. So actually there is a correlation, and as I already mentioned, when we do the studies at particular case company, when we go to other case companies, we cannot fully visualize the entire situation in that particular company, but we can visualize part of those things in the different companies. There is like a correlation between what we can see at different companies, and to some extent we can generalize the findings we did at some companies, and we can apply it at another company. Like when we did a case study at particular companies, and when we try to validate different companies which are working on different domains, sometimes we will be getting more insights like how they are doing it in their domain, or sometimes they confirm like, okay, we are also doing the same procedure, or we also face the same situation.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. My inbox is quiet. I have invited everyone to ask questions, but I also get the feeling that they might be happy by now. I hope so. I hope that's the sign of a quiet inbox. So if no further questions to you at this point in time, we will close the first part of the seminar, and we will move on to the second part, which is first of all a closed meeting between the opponent and the examiner and the supervisors, where you get to breathe a little bit and stay here.
Yeah.
And then when we have had the discussion, we will return back to this room and the result will be presented. And so with those words, I complete this first part of the seminar, and I'll see you all in a bit.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. And Jan and Maria, I'll see you in the other meeting.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Thank you.
listening. Yeah. Should I close this one?
Keep it open.
Okay, seems like everyone is getting back, and you are muted in the room there, but
You should do it one more time. There we go.
yeah, now I can hear you. I think it's my time to tell what type of decision actually I've reached, but it's based on the recommendation from the opponent and also with input from the supervisor about your work. And there is no hesitation from my side, but to say that congratulations, I've approved you for the licentiate thesis. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, Marianne. Thank you, Jan, for announcing this. Yeah.
We're very happy for you, man.
Yeah,
Well
and I would
done.
like to dedicate this to my future colleague.
Big congratulations. Well done.
Yeah.
And thank you so
Congratulations.
much, Maria.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Maria, for being the opponent. Thank you so much, Jan, the examiner of MENU. And thanks everyone who joined this seminar. We have 2 people in the room, and we have hopefully a big audience online that also will congratulate you. So thank you, everyone. And with that very good result, I will close this session. Thanks again, everyone, and have a good rest of the day. We will celebrate with the new licentiate. Thank you so much.
We're going to have some cake here.
Yeah.
We
thank
complete
you.
the session and wish you all well.
Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate all your time and effort. Have a nice day. Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Maria.
Bye.